Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2, Land of Origin based on novel. This is special episode of Swallowed Star 2. So let's start. Flame Wind ancient country, the border city Xiangjia City, was as bustling as ever, with numerous cultivators going about their normal lives. The underground palace of the garrison mansion. Luo Feng sat cross-legged in the Great Hall, with a full 5 billion black rivers forming the Black River world, suppressing the world's entrance. The creatures of the primordial bloodline had long since departed. Facing the great Tao of life origin, the deeper I comprehend, the more I vaguely sense that countless lives will eventually head towards destruction. It turns out, even this giant braided cage governed by the supreme rules will meet its great destruction, Luo Feng smiled. Being privy to this secret did not bother Luo Feng in the slightest. Back on Earth, when he was still weak, people were born, grew old, fell ill and died, with many not living past 100 years. And what about him? He had grown all the way up to now, even having experienced the reincarnation of the primordial cosmos. And the destruction of the entire origin world, from the present day, who knows how many reincarnation eras there might be. Living until the great destruction of the entire origin world would be a matter of pride. What's there to be dissatisfied with? Luo Feng had long been content, enjoying every single day of his cultivation. Cultivation was never for that final moment, but for every moment along the journey of cultivation. He was pondering the essence of the world's operation, while also elevating the essence of his own life. This process in itself was filled with endless joy. Time passed, and the deadline for the heavenly task was about to arrive. Luo Feng also left an avatar on the Blood Spirit Star, carrying a full 3 billion black rivers, for Luo Feng worried that someone might take the opportunity to contend for the Blood Spirit Golden Pearls, while he was tasked with suppressing the world's entrance. 3 billion black rivers were enough to discourage the other transcendence of the primal chaos realm. The Blood Spirit Star indeed welcomed its third eruption period. During the eruption period, Luo Feng enveloped that Blood Spirit Star with the Black River world and obtained a total of 53 Blood Spirit Golden Pearls this time. Chu Capital, Luo Feng's cave dwelling. Brother Luo He, today is the last day of the heavenly task. The rankings are about to come out. Emperor Chu Yu sat opposite Luo Feng, quite nervous at the moment, for the resources of the heavenly task were too important to him. Don't worry, you've made all the efforts you could, your anxiety won't change the rankings. Luo Feng was leisurely sipping his wine. This time, for the Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task, I'm indisputably first, and by a large margin. Emperor Chu Yu looked at Luo Feng, the third eruption of the Blood Spirit Star this time. All the first-grade marquises wanted to buy those Blood Spirit Golden Pearls. Brother Luo He, you haven't sold a single one. Those marquises might bear a grudge because of that. Luo Feng continued pouring wine, smiling. Do you think I care about them? Emperor Chu Yu laughed as well. He knew his friend's strength. Even among the first realm of godly king beings in the land of origin, Luo He was considered one of the strongest. First-grade marquis of the imperial clan. There are nearly 100 first-grade marquises in the imperial clan's 13 lineages. This time there are 3 subtasks for the heavenly task. My own 2 subtasks are third and fourth, Emperor Chu Yu said. The subtask you helped with, Brother Luo He, is absolutely first. Combined the 3 subtasks. I don't know which place I'll take, Emperor Chu Yu pondered. I heard Marquis Chu Ying was first in both of his subtasks. Luo Feng inquired. Yes. Emperor Chu Yu nodded. Marquis Chu Ying didn't rely on any external objects either, but understood the Tao just like you, Brother Luo He. His performances in the 2 subtasks were quite impressive. The next godly king of our Emperor Chu's lineage of the imperial clan will likely be him. Luo Feng nodded, as Emperor Qing had also once praised Marquis Chu Ying. indicating his potential and understanding. Of course, in terms of understanding and potential, he is far from matching you, Brother Luo He. Emperor Chuyu sighed. Brother Luo He, you created a secret technique, and became the first to transcend in the primal chaos realm, acknowledged by all forces in the land of origin. It won't be long before you become a godly king. Marquis Chu Ying's potential and understanding were considered excellent among the imperial clan. But Luo Feng was absolutely the first among all in the primal chaos realm. Becoming a godly king is not so easy. Luo Feng shook his head. Having comprehended 3 branches of the Great Tao of Life origin, and 2 branches of the Great Tao of Destruction origin, even if he had used the primordial crystal spirit fruit and practiced some secret techniques, he still had not made a breakthrough. Time slowly passed. Not just Emperor Chu's lineage, but all 13 lineages of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country's imperial clan, all the first-grade marquises were waiting for the rankings of the heavenly task. In a certain moment, the 13 lineages of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country's imperial clan simultaneously revealed the rankings of the heavenly task. It's out, the rankings are out, all sides were paying attention to the news. Chu Capital. The Two Realms Palace, such a waste. Marquis Chu Chang looking at the final rankings. Among the 7 first-grade marquises from Emperor Chu's lineage, Marquis Chu Chang was ranked 4th. Being in the top 3 would have meant a better allocation of resources. The resources for the 4th rank were indeed greatly diminished. In my individual tasks, I was 4th and 5th. For the Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task, I was 3rd. Marquis Chu Chang shook his head. He was of average level, and that's why the Two Realms Palace had chosen him. Unsure of his own prospects, he was willing to share ample resources. Not being in the top 3 means I don't need to give anything to the Two Realms Palace. Marquis Chu Chang snorted, cursing the Two Realms Palace's incompetence, while also feeling like he had made some easy gains. Luo Feng's cave dwelling. Emperor Chu Yu and Luo Feng were together, waiting for the final rankings. Second. Emperor Chu Yu's hand trembled so much that his wine cup fell. He excitedly looked at Luo Feng. I'm ranked 2nd. As a newly promoted first-grade marquis, I actually ranked 2nd. Marquis Chu Ying is 1st. Luo Feng asked. Yes, he's 1st, and I'm 2nd. Emperor Chu Yu was exhilarated. Marquis Chu Feng is 3rd. Marquis Chu Chang 4th. Marquis Chu Ji 5th. Marquis Chu Lin 6th. Marquis Chu Yuan 7th. Luo Feng nodded. It was all within expectations. Marquis Chu Ying, both individual subtasks ranked 1st, and the Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task ranked 2nd. Emperor Chu Yu, one individual subtask ranked 3rd and the other 4th, with the Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task being absolutely 1st. Marquis Chu Feng, one individual subtask ranked 2nd and the other 3rd, with the Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task ranking 4th due to the intervention of the Lord of Yuan Xiu Mansion. These are the top 3. Ranking at the bottom is Marquis Chu Yuan, who due to cultivating the primordial bloodline, ranked 7th in both individual subtasks assessing insight and potential. The Blood Spirit Golden Pearl task was 0, leaving him still at the bottom. In the Flame-Wind Ancient Country, it is generally forbidden to cultivate the primordial bloodline in the primal chaos realm. Even at the first realm of Godly King, there are very few who cultivate the primordial bloodline. One must pass through numerous trials to qualify for cultivation. The threshold is extremely high. Because the threshold is extremely high and cultivation must be cautious, no one in Flame-Wind Ancient Country who cultivated the primordial bloodline has lost control. This is also a difference between the two ancient countries. The Flame-Wind Ancient Country has always been wary of the primordial bloodline, cultivating it cautiously. Even the contemporary Emperor Fu ascended using the primordial bloodline, without losing control, yet he ultimately chose reincarnation to abandon this path, not relying on any external force, and reascended as emperor through the path of formations. From the attitude of the higher-ups, one can see the caution towards the primordial bloodline. The Thunder ancient country, on the other hand, fully embraces the primordial bloodline, allowing beings in the primal chaos realm to start cultivating it, and godly kings can cultivate it even deeper. Mountain-sitting guest joined the Thunder ancient country, because the threshold there is very low. Brother Luo, I'll be going back first. Emperor Chu stood up. I'll be heading to the palace of Emperor Chu to receive resources soon. Go ahead, Luo Feng smiled. Emperor Chu left immediately. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In a vast world. A figure sat cross-legged on the ground. The entire world operated with vast different formations interlocking with each other. Based on the 10,000 formation map, and primordial space fragmented array 8 scrolls, you want to advance further. This figure pondered when suddenly, a thought transmitted through causality arrived from afar. Emperor Fu. A domineering and unrestrained voice belonged to the first emperor of the flame-wind ancient country, Emperor Yang. Brother Emperor Yang, what's the matter? Emperor Fu asked. Guarding the border city Xiangjie City is a task for my Emperor Yang lineage. Initially, I dispatched Yang Su to guard Xiangjie City, and Yang Su has guarded it flawlessly to this day, Emperor Yang's voice came, but recently, that Luo He directly attacked the border city, killed all avatars of the Guardian General Yang Su inside the city. It even caused a riot of primordial bloodline beings. Brother Emperor Yang, this was originally a task for your Emperor Yang lineage. Emperor Fu smiled. I thought you had discussed it with Emperor Chu. The entire imperial clan was busy with the heavenly task until recently, which is why I am only dealing with this matter now. Emperor Yang said. I believe that attacking the border city Xiangjie City must be severely punished. After all, it suppresses a world portal, a world personally opened by the ancestor, his painstaking effort. I know, it should be severely punished, Emperor Fu said. This Luo he has many avatars, ordinary punishment is trivial for him, ineffective for disciplining, Emperor Yang said. I think, making him guard the lava old demon might be suitable. Emperor Fu frowned. The lava old demon, among the godly king-level primordial bloodline beings cultivated by the ancestor Yang Feng, was an extremely powerful old demon, with strength comparable to the emperor's, which is why he was imprisoned separately. Just considering the primordial bloodline, the lava old demon is stronger than the emperor's and highly contaminative. Guarding the lava old demon, with Luo his strength, it's easy to be contaminated, Emperor Fu stated. The place of imprisonment is still very safe, Emperor Yang said. Brother Emperor Yang, I won't lie to you. Half a century ago, Emperor Chu had already spoken to me about this matter, Emperor Fu said. He said, his direct disciple Luo he made a mistake, he admits it. His punishment must follow the laws of the flame-wind ancient country. If it exceeds the range of the laws, he will defy punishment. Even escalating the matter to the ancestor. Defy punishment. Emperor Yang was somewhat shocked. Emperors do have the right to defy punishment. Some decisions made by the reigning emperor can be too much, and other emperors can choose to defy punishment. They could even escalate it to the ancestor. To defy punishment and escalate to the ancestor for such a trivial matter. This Emperor Chu has always been impulsive, Emperor Yang was quite annoyed. Emperor Chu never cultivated the primordial bloodline, he has been domineering and protective from a young age, never caring about the grand scheme. Always ready to break the sky. But it's also because of this, Emperor Chu's cultivation in the great Tao of destruction origin has been quite smooth. Emperor Chu makes a lot of sense, no matter what. We must stay within the legal limits, Emperor Fu stated, otherwise, if he really defies punishment, and it escalates to the ancestor, it won't look good on us. Then what do you suggest as punishment? Emperor Yang felt helpless. Facing someone who flips the table over trivial disagreement and even defies punishment, what can he do? Since Xiangjie City currently has no guardian general, penalize Luo He to guard it. Emperor Fu stated, let him guard for 10,000 eras, and he receives no merit points. Garrison duty at the border is generally a tough task, typically with high reward in merit points. As a punishment, naturally, the merit is erased. Make it 10,000 eras then, Emperor Yang said. All right, then 10,000 eras, Emperor Fu agreed. Chu capital, Palace of Emperor Chu. Luo Feng came here to see his master. Your sentence has been delivered, guarding Xiangjie City for 10,000 eras. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. Although the punishment is harsh, it is still within legal bounds, considered a normal punishment. Luo Feng nodded, thank you, master. Within the normal range of punishment, Luo Feng was not worried. There's no need to thank me, Emperor Chu said. If you weren't my disciple, Emperor Yang wouldn't have targeted you. So this is my responsibility. What kind of joke would it be if I couldn't even protect my disciple? This is the Xiangjie World Entrance Array Talisman. Emperor Chu waved his hand, and a golden array talisman flew toward Luo Feng. Luo Feng took the golden array talisman and received two major pieces of information from it. The method to control the talisman, and the method to control the entire array of Xiangjie City. With a clear method, given Luo Feng's realm, he naturally mastered it easily. With your strength, coupled with the array, garrisoning Xiangjie City will naturally be a breeze, Emperor Chu said. The only issue is that you must garrison for 10,000 eras. This was personally adjudicated by Emperor Husband, and even if you became a godly king, I'm afraid the term cannot be shortened. I have many avatars, so it doesn't matter, Luo Feng said. Emperor Chu nodded in satisfaction, go then. Luo Feng respectfully departed immediately. The news that Luo Feng was punished to garrison Xiangjie City for 10,000 eras spread quickly among the upper echelons of the flame-wind ancient country, and many from the imperial clan and first-class marquises soon learned of it. Brother Luo He, Emperor Chu Yu, feeling quite guilty, had just collected the heavenly task resources from the palace of Emperor Chu and immediately went to visit. It's all because of my blood spirit golden pearl task that has led Brother Luo He and Yang Su to become enemies, and now even resulted in a garrisoning punishment of 10,000 eras at Xiangjie City, Emperor Chu Yu said, looking at Luo Feng. Brother Luo He hadn't taken any benefits from him for this task, yet ended up heavily punished, naturally making Emperor Chu Yu feel extremely apologetic. Luo Feng shook his head. Don't worry about it. I couldn't stand the evil anymore, so I took the initiative to head to Xiangjie City, eliminated a few of Yang Su's avatars, and seized his godly king weapon. That's how I vented my frustration. No matter what, all these things happened because of me. Emperor Chu Yu suddenly produced a golden bottle. This is a bottle of purifying spirit liquid I received while fetching the heavenly task resources, which is beneficial for understanding the great Tao and enhancing the spiritual will. This bottle of purifying spirit liquid was the most precious among the resources he obtained, worth nearly half of this harvest. Emperor Chu Yu felt that without Luo Feng's help, he might not have been third. So it was only right to give his most valuable resource to a good friend. Beneficial for the great Tao and spiritual will. Luo Feng did not refuse, and directly accepted it, thanks. It is I who should thank you, Brother Luo He, Emperor Chu Yu said with a smile. This time in the heavenly task, the first rank gets the most resources, and I am second, having half as much as Marquis Chu Ying. The one who ranked third only has 1/3 of my share. The next 4 even less. That's how it is in the flame-wind ancient country's imperial clan. The more outstanding one is, the more they focus on nurturing. I should head back now. Getting second place has also made me much busier, Emperor Chu Yu said. Luo Feng nodded, watching him depart. then looked at the bottle of purifying spirit liquid in his hand, which was an unrecorded treasure in the inheritance palace, probably exclusive to the imperial elite. In fact, even Emperor Chu Yu only received this bottle due to the heavenly task. Brother Chu Yu, we still have long days ahead, Luo Feng whispered softly. Garrisoning Xiangjie city for 10,000 eras. Becoming a godly king won't shorten the punishment period. Luo Feng didn't mind at all, he accepted his punishment. On the frontier of the flame-wind ancient country, Xiangjie city, Garrison Mansion. Greetings, Garrison General. A vast throng of subordinates bowed respectfully, without exception. Luo Feng sat in the main seat, with Morosa, Moyu Qingyang, and the primordial ancestor standing to one side. In typical cities, the roles of city lord and military commander are held by two different powerhouses. However, if a transcendent of the primal chaos realm garrisoned a city, they would typically hold all authority. Upon the news that Luo Feng, the first to transcend the primal chaos realm, was responsible for garrisoning Xiangjie city, preparations to receive him had long been made within the city. From today onward, he who formerly served as deputy guardian of Xiangjie city, Luo Feng said, looking at those below, his orders are my orders. Do you all understand? Understood. Not a single subordinate raised an objection. Take your seats, Luo Feng nodded. This large group of subordinates included more than 300 eternal true gods, and over 1,000 true gods of void space who held important positions. In front of Luo He, the first to transcend the primal chaos realm, all they needed to do was obey. After the banquet had dispersed. Primordial ancestor, I'll be depending on you for the many affairs of Xiangjie city in the future, Luo Feng said, walking side by side with the primordial ancestor. I have many illusionary avatars living different lives in the land of origin, the primordial ancestor replied with a smile, and now, to manage a large city, is yet another identity. It suits my cultivation well. By the way, your disciple Moyu Qingyang can also become more involved in the city's affairs, the primordial ancestor suggested. Experiencing more will also serve as heart honing. Okay. Luo Feng smiled. I haven't really taught my disciple much myself. It's all been you guys teaching him. Moyu Qingyang's talent was indeed quite ordinary. After becoming a true god of void space by following the law lineage, progress became even harder. After discussions between the primordial ancestor, Morosa, and Luo Feng's final decision, Moyu Qingyang had transitioned to the bloodline cultivation system. With Moyu Qingyang's talents, if he solely followed the path of laws, to become an eternal true god in this lifetime would be quite an achievement. Following the bloodline cultivation system, with the support of Luo Feng and Morosa, becoming an eternal true god would be relatively easy. There was even a sliver of hope for advancing to the primal chaos realm. The true body of the primordial ancestor is indeed indistinguishable from his illusionary avatars, Luo Feng thought as he watched the primordial ancestor leave. Whether the one who accompanied him to Xiangjie city was his true body or an avatar, Luo Feng did not have the confidence to discern. Now, his true body and illusionary avatars were outwardly indistinguishable. The same physical body, the same aura. Primordial ancestor, if it were not for the oppression of the primordial cosmos, with his strength, he would have probably succeeded in passing through reincarnation long ago, Luo Feng mused. With a step, he entered the hidden Great Hall deep underground. Within the hidden Great Hall was the world entrance to another realm. Luo Feng looked at the world entrance, now with array talismans in place, he could, using the formation, prevent primordial bloodline creatures from escaping. This world harbors a large population of primordial bloodline creatures, Luo Feng's eyes burned with fervor. Guarding Xiangjie city for tens of thousands of eras would typically earn roughly 1 million merit points. But since Luo Feng was here as a punishment, he naturally wouldn't receive any. Losing 1 million merit points did not concern Luo Feng. Primal Chaos Realm creatures with primordial bloodlines are relatively weak, perfect for my research. Having conceived the concept of the Trinity form, Luo Feng naturally wanted to study the vastly stronger, 10 directions world form life structure next. The golden scale beetle was a primal chaos realm creature with a primordial bloodline, one of the most perfected among them. A single corpse was worth 1,000,000 merit points. However, as a guardian, there is a strict prohibition against stealing primordial bloodline creatures, or slaughtering them. Luo Feng was aware of this, a severe decree. The formation sealing that world was always recording all scenes. Stealing, slaughtering primordial bloodline creatures were grave offenses, far more serious than killing a few of Yang Su's avatars. If it's merely a scuffle, a beating, it's not an issue, Luo Feng said with a smile, since the primordial bloodline creatures routinely fought and struggled among themselves, which also promoted the evolution of their bloodlines. I'll just frequently give those primordial bloodline creatures a beating, make them behave and allow me to study their blood, scales and feathers. They should find that acceptable, Luo Feng pondered. The materials from a single golden scale beetle corpse were not enough. More materials were needed for more extensive research. Xiangjie City's nights were equally bustling. Since the news spread that Luo He, the first to transcend the primal chaos realm, was taking charge of guarding Xiangjie City for an era, many forces began to invest more into Xiangjie City. Several family branches moved here to take root, and the prices for cave mansions within the city soared. Being able to live safely for an era is a luxury for many cultivators, Morosa said from the tower of the garrison mansion, looking over the city. Luo Feng nodded. Although true gods have a lifespan of 30,000 eras and the true god of void space even possesses limitless lifespan, in the land of origin where conflicts and struggles are rife, cultivators can easily become unintended victims. The years one truly lives tend to be much shorter by comparison. Even for great families, they would branch out and root themselves in different cities. After all, if they were to gather in one place, they could all be wiped out in an instant, should they be impacted by the clash of some terrifying entities. Luo Feng sensed something and turned his head to look to the side where a bald figure made of light was condensing. The bald figure smiled at Luo Feng. Being looked at by the other party made Luo Feng feel as if he were being stared down by a terrifying monster, one that could crush him at any moment. Even though his true self possessed 9 billion black rivers, he felt completely incapable of resisting the other. Luo Sa, you stand down first, Luo Feng instructed. Yes, master. Morosa looked at the bald figure and felt a tremble in his heart. Very terrifying. Morosa could feel that even if he exploded with all his might, he would be thoroughly annihilated by the other party, not leaving even ash behind. This was definitely not a power that one at the first realm of Godly King could possess. Luo He, the bald figure stood there, smiling at Luo Feng. I am the Walker, the Deputy Palace Master of the Twin Realms Palace. I've heard that in the Twin Realms Palace, the highest positions are the Palace Master and the Deputy Palace Master. I didn't expect the Deputy Palace Master to personally visit me today, Luo Feng exclaimed in surprise. As one of the most influential forces in the land of origin, the status of the Deputy Palace Master of the Twin Realms Palace was self-evident. The bald figure laughed. This also represents the importance the Twin Realms Palace places on you. You are the first to create a secret technique and achieve transcendence of primal chaos realm. With such perception and potential, once you become a godly king and accumulate a little, you will be at the invincible level of the first realm of Godly King. At that time, you can become an official member of our Twin Realms Palace. Invincible level of the first realm of Godly King. Luo Feng understood as well. Many godly kings, even if they train to the limit of their inheritance, are far from touching this level. For example, mastering the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, gives strong life-saving abilities, but the prowess in direct combat is just considered extremely strong among godly kings. Mastering the first volume of the Extermination of 72 Blades yields fearsome destructive power, but it's too weak in other areas to be considered invincible in the first realm of godly king. Invincible in the first realm of godly king. Comparable to the ordinary second realm of godly king, it's enough to be a dominant power in the land of origin, which is also the threshold for entering the Twin Realms Palace. So we came to invite you in advance, and you can first become an outer member. After becoming a godly king, you will soon be an official member, the bald figure said. In our Twin Realms Palace, besides me and the Palace Master, the identities of other members are unknown to each other. When gathering, it is in the virtual world of the Twin Realms Palace that our thoughts meet, each by a code name. We unite to break the monopoly of the two ancient countries over many resources, said the bald figure. Monopoly. Luo Feng listened. You are a transcendent of primal chaos realm, and don't currently pose a threat to the godly kings. Therefore, the godly kings of the Flame Wind ancient country are quite friendly to you, said the bald figure. But once it involves their interests, they'll bare their fangs. Luo Feng listened, and he certainly knew that the struggle between the 13 branches of the imperial clan was fierce. What is the most precious resource in the land of origin? The bald figure asked. Is it the resources brought back from outside the braided cage by the primogenitor Yang Feng and Thunder primogenitor? No. It's the resources left by the primordial ancestor. The resources left by the primordial ancestor. Luo Feng was shocked. I have personally received guidance from the primordial ancestor, which was my greatest fortune. The bald figure looked at Luo Feng. The primordial ancestor left quite a few resources in the land of origin, but the majority of these resources have been occupied by the two ancient countries. We cultivators who are not of the imperial clan, if we don't unite, won't even be able to snatch the remaining parts. The bald figure looked at Luo Feng. You are a direct disciple of Emperor Chu, but is it useful? The resources of the imperial clan in the Flame Wind ancient country can only be distributed to the imperial clan. Non-imperial clan guest elders must make contributions to exchange for resources. Even for the most important resources, they will not exchange them despite the contributions, the bald figure said. But these resources left by the primordial ancestor are for all cultivators. Of course, we are qualified to contend. Luo Feng listened. You should have noticed that there are very few godly kings who join the Flame Wind ancient country completely, said the bald figure. Luo Feng acknowledged this point. Many guest elder godly kings maintain the status of guest elder while still setting up divine kingdoms and establishing their own forces outside. There are indeed very few who completely join the Flame Wind ancient country. You should be able to see that there are 13 emperors in the Flame Wind ancient country, and 9 monarchs in the Thunder ancient country. But, becoming emperor or monarch, only members of the imperial clans of the two ancient countries can, said the bald figure. All cultivators from other races, including the direct disciples of primogenitor Yang Feng and Thunder primogenitor, haven't reached the strength of emperor or monarch. Why? Is it because their talent and insight are not enough? It's because the resources that can make one an emperor or monarch are only given to the imperial clan. The bald figure looked at Luo Feng. I can tell you that the resources left by the primordial ancestor include some for godly kings and below. Luo Feng was intrigued. The godly kings and below could also access the resources left by the primordial ancestor. The Lai Yuan technique should be considered as such. But have you had access to them? The bald figure looked at Luo Feng. Will your master Emperor Chu give them to you? He won't give them to you. Because he has no authority to do so. The resources of the primordial ancestor are the most precious, and the core must be given to the imperial clan. Only the more peripheral ones will be given to you, so-called direct disciples, the bald figure said. Don't believe me? You can go ask your master and see what he says. I can tell you that every transcendent of primal chaos realm in the Imperial clan has the right to enter some of the domains left by the primordial ancestor. The bald figure looked at Luo Feng. As the first among the transcendents of primal chaos realm, you haven't even heard of it, have you? Regarding this matter, you can also ask your master. Emperor Chu's disposition, he won't hide it from you. As time goes by, as you become a godly king, you will understand, said the bald figure. These are not secrets. As the bald figure spoke, he casually threw out a talisman. Once you've thought it through, you can crush the talisman at any time to become an outer disciple of our Twin Realms Palace. I can promise you that as long as you agree to join the Twin Realms Palace, I will immediately send you to one of the domains left by the primordial ancestor. In our Twin Realms Palace, we believe in equal status for all, cooperation with each other, and fair exchange. But the first opportunity you get to enter the domain, consider it a gift from me. Luo Feng received the talisman and said, I'll think about it. The bald figure smiled and nodded, then dissolved into nothingness without a sound. Luo Feng stood alone on the tower, overlooking Xiangjie City at nightfall. He looked down at the command token in his hand, contemplating every word uttered by the Deputy Palace Master Walker from the two realms. Once I join, they would send me to a secret location left by Yuan. Luo Feng was indeed tempted. He carried an inheritance related to Yuan, the Lai Yuan technique, and naturally, he desired similar opportunities. Still, Luo Feng remained vigilant. The Two Realms Palace claimed that all stand at equal status, cooperating and exchanging fairly. But were the spoken words necessarily true? Best to ask Master first, Luo Feng thought. In Chu capital, within the palace of Emperor Chu, Luo Feng went to see his master that very night. The Deputy Palace Master Walker from the Two Realms came to invite you. Emperor Chu sat there, nodding in acknowledgement. The Two Realms Palace acts swiftly. You're merely a transcendent of primal chaos realm, and they've already extended an invitation, even offering you a chance to enter a treasure site. That's quite a grand gesture. Luo Feng listened. If Master calls it a grand gesture, then this opportunity must be significant indeed. What he said isn't wrong, Emperor Chu nodded. The resources of the two ancient countries are mainly allocated to the Imperial clan. Those not of the Imperial clan need to exchange merit points, or pay a certain price to trade. Luo Feng understood. The Deputy Palace Master hadn't lied. It's a rule set by the ancestor, Emperor Chu continued. The ancestor commanded that after meticulous selection, the treasures he brought back could be used to focus on cultivating elites within the clan. Thus, the clan's elites enjoy numerous benefits. The dukes of the Imperial clan get a fair share, and the godly kings of the Imperial clan receive even more. This incites envy among many godly kings in the land of origin. But the ancestor stated that powerful individuals not of the Imperial clan, the ancestor would grant them opportunities to exchange for inheritances, exchange for resources. However, they must be through the exchange of merit points, or other fair trades. There can be no free gifts, exchanges must be fair, Emperor Chu said, smiling at Luo Feng. Even if you are taken as a direct disciple, to gift anything of value to the disciple, the master must bear the cost. For instance, the resources I gave you, or even the inheritances within the godly king range you'll exchange for in the future, such as the extermination of 72 blades, or the 8 tribulations life form, all come out of my own pocket. Luo Feng understood. Both ancestors believed in fair exchange with those not in their own families. There would be no free resources. Thank you, Master, Luo Feng expressed with gratitude. Both those inheritances, particularly the content at the ultimate realm of God King level, amassed a cumulative cost of hundreds of millions of merit points. So, the help I can offer you is limited, Emperor Chu remarked. Plus, I owe the clan a hefty debt of merit points. Owing merit points to the clan? Luo Feng questioned, confused. Indeed, the resources left by Yuan are allocated to some extent, Emperor Chu explained. However, if one wants to apply for additional, exceedingly high resources beyond the clan's allotment, that's considered a debt. I applied for an enormous amount of resources to become an emperor. The ancestors are willing to exchange fairly with other cultivators for the resources needed to become emperors or monarchs. But the other godly kings of the land of origin simply can't afford it, said Emperor Chu. That's the real reason why only the two imperial clans have emperors and monarchs. Being in debt, I must carry out many missions, from which I cannot excuse myself. The resources left by Yuan are extremely valuable. Claiming a portion means I must repay the clan, until my debt is fully settled, Emperor Chu stated. The 13 bloodlines of imperial clan emperors lay claim to the land of origin's most precious resources by strength, but they all end up repaying the clan. Except for Emperor Qing, the other 12 emperors are in debt to the clan, explained Emperor Chu. Emperor Qing has some authority to bestow the Yuan's resources owned by the clan to his disciples. But we 12 emperors don't have that power. Luo Feng now understood. You are my disciple and a guest elder of the Flame-Wind ancient country, Emperor Chu said. Unless the ancestor personally invites you with sufficient promises, you have no need to fully join the Flame-Wind ancient country. While joining might offer some benefits, it would greatly increase the restrictions on you. For a powerful godly king, it's better to remain free. I understand, Luo Feng nodded. Master, should I join the Two Realms Palace then? Do not join, said Emperor Chu firmly. Luo Feng was puzzled. Across the entire land of origin, although the imperial clans of the two ancient countries are powerful, there are more godly kings outside of the imperial clan in number, Emperor Chu explained. They indeed have the right to contend for Yuan's resources and thus have formed forces of varying sizes, both overt and covert. There are 3 major covert forces that you shouldn't join, the Two Realms Palace, the Wanfa Tower, and the Time-Space Lonely Boat, Emperor Chu warned. Why shouldn't I join? Luo Feng inquired. These 3 covert forces are likely established by an alien race, Emperor Chu disclosed. By alien race, I mean cultivators from beyond the braided cage. Luo Feng was shocked. Alien race? There's no need for concern. The alien races are suppressed by supreme rules, and any technique or power they display is limited, unable to exceed a certain boundary within the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu explained. Once limited in power, no matter how profound, they are at best a somewhat more troublesome first realm of godly king. Luo Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Their true strength should be beyond that of the ultimate realm of a godly king, said Emperor Chu. That's why even if it is a weak avatar that descends into our realm from the vast primordial space, a first realm godly king that can't be killed outright, with its inscrutable and bizarre methods still brings much trouble to the two ancient countries. What are they doing in the land of origin? Asked Luo Feng. The resources left by the ancestor, Emperor Chu replied. You may not be fully aware of how precious the resources left by the ancestor are. They are resources that even those above the ultimate realm of a godly king still covet. I do not want you to join those 3 major alien race forces because, firstly, the aliens are those most eager to obtain the ancestors' resources, and with all your actions under their surveillance, the aliens will be your direct competition. Secondly, who knows what hidden risks there might be after prolonged contact with them. For example, those so-called Dual Realm Palace, Wanfa Tower, and Time-Space Lonely Boat are secret treasures that transcend the ultimate realm of a godly king. Is there a hidden danger in allowing one's mind to enter such places over time? It's difficult to say. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. As for other powers, you can join any that you prefer. I understand, Master, Luo Feng thought to himself, having made up his mind after learning that these three powerful forces were established by alien races. Some godly king's second realm cultivators, who have lived for an exceedingly long time, might place their trust in their own strength, and in pursuit of breakthroughs, choose to deal with the alien races, making pacts with tigers, so to speak. But Luo Feng was young, and there was no need for him to do the same. Although there are several sacred places left by the ancestor, very few of them are accessible to those in the primal chaos realm, Emperor Chu said. Perhaps only these three major forces have the boldness to directly offer you a chance to enter. Luo Feng nodded. Indeed, no pies fall from the sky. The better the pie appears, the bigger the problems. Who could have imagined the Dual Realm Palace was backed by an alien race? Let me think. Emperor Chu sat down, thinking rapidly. Now that the resources of the land of origin had long been clearly divided, acquiring resources without using force was difficult. And Luo Feng, just transcending the primal chaos realm, could not compete for resources with those ancient beings. In the primal chaos realm, if you want to gain a great opportunity left by the ancestor, other than cooperating with the alien races, there's only one strategy one can think of. Emperor Chu had an idea. What strategy? Luo Feng's eyes lit up. You should know that the border of the two ancient countries nurtures various heavenly and earthly treasures, which the cultivators from both realms of the ancient countries vie for, Emperor Chu began. These competitions are usually confined to the primal chaos realm. And you are from the primal chaos realm. Even better, you are the top of those who have transcended the primal chaos realm, the absolute best. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. As one from the primal chaos realm, it's in accordance with the rules of the two ancient countries for you to compete for resources scattered throughout the Thunder ancient countries' borders. Luo Feng nodded. The border between the two countries is very long, and many heavenly and earthly treasures are nurtured there, said Emperor Chu. I will send you all the information about the maturity times of these treasures, and you will go and compete for them time and again. Each contest over these treasures will be valued at a few thousand merit points. But in one era, you should be able to compete over 100 times, and that amounts to several 100,000 merit points. In 100 eras, that's several tens of millions of merit points. In 1,000 eras, that's several billion merit points. Because each treasure nurtured by heaven and earth is generally worth only a few thousand merit points, it's unlikely that a godly king will personally intervene for such small gains, escalating it to an emperor-level war. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. If you continue to compete consistently, with your overwhelming strength, you will succeed every time. After you've contested a few dozen times, the Thunder ancient country will realize the seriousness of the problem, and they will come to negotiate with you, Emperor Chu continued. Then, you can demand a slot to enter the sacred place left by the ancestor. As a guest elder of the Flame Wind ancient country, you can't act against your own. So you act against them, make them feel the pain, and coerce them into granting you the opportunity, Emperor Chu smiled. This is the only strategy one can think of. Thank you, Master, Luo Feng's eyes sparkled. Transcending the primal chaos realm, with realms all below that of a godly king, naturally makes it very hard to increase one's strength. Like the current top 5 transcendents of the primal chaos realm, the differences between them are minuscule, it's only their methods that vary. And in this era, there appeared someone like Luo Feng, turning the battleground where the primal chaos realm of the two ancient countries once contended, into Luo Feng's sweeping harvest field. Go, said Emperor Chu. As he watched his disciple depart, Emperor Chu sighed quietly to himself. He wanted to help his disciple, but his own means were also quite limited. He could only give a bit of his resources to his disciple. As for the precious resources left by the ancestor, he had no authority to allocate them. In the end, he could only devise strategies, allowing his disciple to fight for them with his own abilities. The border between the two ancient countries is really long. Standing aloft, Luo Feng started to take action following the strategies laid out by his master. The two ancient countries occupied the most essential parts of the land of origin, and the areas where their borders met were the central regions of the land of origin. Many heavenly and earthly treasures were nurtured there, only that these treasures also had their growth cycles. They only needed strict guarding when they were ripe. Strict guarding. With the help of formations, how many can stop me? Luo Feng's body was carrying no less than 90 billion strands of Black River. Let's begin. Used to the customary struggles of the primal chaos realm at the border, from this day onward, Luo He, the number one transcendent of the primal chaos realm, also joined in. Within the territory of Thunder Ancient Country, there was an ancient tree nurtured by heaven and earth, known as the Frost Fruit Tree. Every 196 eras, the tree would bear fruit, producing frost fruits that were a kind of auxiliary resource for cultivating the primordial bloodline. The Frost Fruit Tree is about to mature, and the warriors from the Flame-Wind Ancient Country's primal chaos realm could come to snatch it at any moment. The guardian responsible for the Frost Fruit Tree was also a mighty warrior, at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. He had ceased his cultivation in recent days, fully controlling the formation with all his heart and mind, always vigilant against incoming enemies. Every 196 eras, during the time when the fruit is maturing, powerful warriors would be stationed as guardians. With my strength, combined with the formation set up by the godly king, even if a transcendence of primal chaos realm were to take action, I could hold them off for a while. Moreover, those transcendents of the primal chaos realm wouldn't covet these fruits, the grey-robed elder thought. Each harvest yielded only 8 fruits, worth a mere 8,000 merit points. Generally, transcendents of the primal chaos realm couldn't break the formation in a short time, and Thunder Ancient Country would send reinforcements. It's close. The Frost Fruit Tree should mature tonight, the grey-robed elder continued to watch. As time slowly passed, suddenly, the ancient tree, which looked like it was carved from ice, suddenly radiated a dazzling, icy white light, and then all of the cold white light merged into the 8 fruits. Just at that moment, whoosh! The Black River world arrived, completely sealing off the area where the Frost Fruit Tree stood. This is bad, the grey-robed elder exclaimed in alarm, as he instantly picked the freshly ripened fruits. The vast, black waters swept in, infiltrating and breaching the formation laid by the godly king right before the frightful force. It wasn't able to stop the river's invasion. The grey-robed elder looked around in all directions, wanting to escape in the form of a grey fog, but he couldn't penetrate the Black River world. A world seal, the Black River domain, is this great Saint Luo He. The grey-robed elder's heart trembled. The black water reached in front of the grey-robed elder and coalesced into a figure, the spitting image of Luo Feng. Great Saint Luo He, the grey-robed elder immediately greeted with respect, not daring to show the slightest disrespect. Give me the fruits, Luo Feng said, looking at him. Yes. The grey-robed elder very obediently handed over the 8 fruits to Luo Feng, without any resistance. He was concerned that if he resisted, Luo Feng might kill him. Then the weapon's secret treasures he carried would be stolen. That would be far more valuable than the 8 fruits. Phew! After securing the 8 fruits, the Black River water and the vast expanse of the Black River world vanished without a trace in an instant. The grey-robed elder then breathed a sigh of relief. This great Saint Luo He is quite merciful, he didn't lay a finger on me. Since Luo Feng had decided on a mass harvest of the treasures of heaven and earth, he hadn't thought about slaughtering guardians on a large scale. Firstly, with his current strength, being among the strongest in the first realm of godly king, killing these much weaker beings felt like bullying. Secondly, killing too many guardians would have too great of a karmic impact. These guardians from the primal chaos realm had their own backgrounds and factions in Thunder Ancient Country. Making too many enemies, killing too many of the lesser ones, might provoke some of the older ones. Most importantly, Luo Feng disliked those who kill indiscriminately. His intention in harvesting the treasures of heaven and earth on such a large scale was to force Thunder Ancient Country into negotiations, to earn an opportunity to enter a treasure land. He had no choice, he wasn't from the imperial clan of the two ancient countries. And not willing to cooperate with an alien race, he could only resort to this method. In Thunder Ancient Country, at the Holy Land Mt. Leitang, a godly king wearing a deep purple robe sat there, dealing with a multitude of trivial matters, as vast amounts of information about the huge ancient country flowed in one after another. Oh! Luo He, the number one transcendence of primal chaos realm, took the 8 frost fruits. This is the first time he's contended for the treasures of heaven and earth at the border, right? The godly king, smiling and looking quite serene, said, I guess the frost fruit must be of some use to him. He didn't seem to care at all. It was quite common for warriors of the primal chaos realm to vie for the border territories, and this was only Luo Feng's first act. Although the border line between the two ancient countries was very long, and there were many places nurturing treasures of heaven and earth, there would only be about 100 opportunities for intervention every era. After each intervention, Luo Feng would have to patiently wait for the next. On his way to his third attempt to claim the treasures of heaven and earth, Luo Feng received some news. Marquis Liu Yin is dead. Luo Feng stopped mid-air, surprised by the news. The core members of the Marquis Liu Yin's family have disappeared. According to information from the Flame Wind Pavilion, they have likely split into many branches and gone into hiding. As for Marquis Liu Yin, his karmic existence has completely vanished. He must have chosen reincarnation, the message said. This kind of affair, where the family matters are carefully arranged beforehand, and then, only after everything is properly managed, the person dies. It could almost be confirmed that it was a voluntary reincarnation. Why has he reincarnated now? I had planned to find him after my spiritual will reach the ultimate realm of God King, Luo Feng pondered. His killing intent toward Marquis Liu Yin was multifaceted. One was the death of his friend Shong Qianyang, and the second was that Marquis Liu Yin himself liked to cause disasters. Slaughter was something Marquis Liu Yin enjoyed doing, and his children also relished in mass killings. Luo Feng had not acted yet merely because he wasn't sure he could kill the opponent completely. But who would have thought that the opponent would take the step to reincarnate first? Luo Feng didn't think about it anymore and continued on his journey to compete for the third time for the treasures of heaven and earth. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Mount Leitang. The godly king in the deep purple robe looked serious now. When Luo He first contended for the treasures of heaven and earth of Thunder Ancient Country, he just smiled. The second and third times, he found it somewhat surprising. By the 7th and 8th times, he felt something was amiss. 15 times now. Recently, every exquisite marvel of heaven and earth conceived by the borderlands has been snatched by this Luo He, not missing a single one, this godly king said solemnly. 15 times added up to roughly 100,000 merit points. Thunder Ancient Country did not care for this amount of value. Yet, Luo He's actions had put him on alert. I must report to the monarch, declared the godly king, as he stood up and went to report to the monarch in person. A short while later, inside a towering and expansive hall, a figure bathed in thunder sat high upon the throne. Monarch. 9 godly kings all bowed respectfully. Sit, said the figure enshrouded in thunder, his golden pupils exuding a terrifying pressure, overlooking those below. He was the ruling monarch Lei Xiao of the current Thunder Ancient Country, where the 9 monarchs were mainly divided into 2 major factions. The first practiced the primordial bloodline of the thunderbolt, which was also the path of the thunderbolt ancestor. This path was the most mature, yet it wasn't something every descendant excelled at. After all, in the supreme rules of the land of origin, there was no origin Tao of thunderbolt. So while this path was mature, it was also extremely difficult. Even within Thunder Ancient Country, there were only 3 monarchs who cultivated the primordial bloodline of the thunderbolt. Their secret techniques were more complete, they had more suitable secret treasures, and they were even more lucid. The other 6 monarchs cultivated other types of primordial bloodlines, forming another faction. If one were to count, there were also 3 semi-uncontrolled monarch-level powerhouses that could be considered a faction. After all, when they were lucid, they possessed genuine monarch-level strength. You should all be aware of the situation, Monarch Lei Xiao said, looking at his subordinates. Speak up, how should we resolve this? The border between the 2 great ancient countries is so long that for 15 consecutive times, every exquisite marvel that has matured has been seized by this Luo He, said a towering figure below, his eyes blood-red. Speaking coldly, 5 or 6 times might be coincidental, but 15 times in a row, that's definitely no coincidence. He's doing it deliberately. If we let him continue, then in 100 or 1,000 eras, will all of our exquisite marvels of heaven and earth go to him? In my opinion, we should just wipe out all his avatars, not giving him the chance to reincarnate. Only then can we deter all parties. Let Flame Wind Ancient Country know that border disputes should be fairly contested. Such wanton seizing, we, Thunder Ancient Country, will not tolerate, the towering figure declared coldly. Yes, kill him before he has the chance to reincarnate. Another godly king, covered in fur, also roared. Monarch Lei Xiao looked down below. Because there were so many cultivating the primordial bloodline, most godly kings of Thunder Ancient Country were somewhat mad. Why did their thunderbolt lineage have a higher status? Strength was one aspect, but another was the ability to remain more lucid. I also agree that we should kill him outright, but how? A beautifully dressed female figure asked leisurely. This Luo He cultivates the 3 origin great Taos of life, destruction, and matter, with innumerable avatars. And some of his avatars reside in Chu Capital. Please tell me, how do we go to Chu Capital, and kill an existence considered of immense strength in the first realm of godly king with countless avatars? That's Chu Capital. Chu Capital was personally forged by primogenitor Yang Feng, guarded by Emperor Chu. Due to the permeation of causality, its power will greatly diminish. How to kill? The beautifully dressed female figure looked at the other godly kings. The other godly kings fell silent. Of course we can't do it, but the monarchs can, the burly figure finally spoke. You mean to ask a monarch to take action? For such a trivial matter, to send a monarch to slaughter his way into Chu Capital of the Flame Wind Ancient Country? The woman in the splendid robe shook her head. First, if a monarch takes action, it would be a case of the strong bullying the weak, and the whole land of origin would laugh at us. Second, in a place like Chu Capital, given the countless life-saving abilities of this Luo his avatar, as well as the protection of Emperor Chu. Even if a monarch could kill Luo, he would be able to reincarnate given just a little time. After reincarnation, Luo he will definitely hide himself. Once he becomes a godly king, his strength will be much greater than now. I fear it won't be inferior to me, the woman in the splendid robe said. Thirdly, don't forget the temperament of Emperor Chu. If our monarch really bullies the weak by slaughtering his way into Chu Capital to kill his disciple, what would Emperor Chu do? The woman in the splendid robe swept her gaze over those present. The godly kings fell silent. Indeed. If Thunder Ancient Country first bullies the weak, and acts tyrannically, Emperor Chu will certainly not endure it. Once Emperor Chu takes action, the other emperors behind him, although they fight amongst themselves, will absolutely unite against outsiders. Most importantly, the border of the two great ancient countries is left for the primal chaos realm beings to fight over. This is decided by the two ancestors, said the woman in the splendid robe. It's also to temper the primal chaos realm of both countries. Let them fight and kill each other, and the strong get the resources. Luo he is also of the primal chaos realm. His struggle for the treasures of heaven and earth is completely within the rules. Now just because he is strong, you want to take action. Doesn't that make our thunder ancient country seem petty? To break the rules set by the ancestor for such a small issue, what does that amount to? The woman in the splendid robe said as she swept her gaze over her companions. What do you propose we do then? His incessantly claiming the treasures of heaven and earth, the burly godly king with blood-red eyes stared at her. Just talk to this Luo he, a small matter that can be resolved with a single negotiation, the woman in the splendid robe said, her smile sweeping over the group of godly kings. A bunch of fools. Indeed, she looked down on these companions. Without cultivating the primordial bloodline, she was already at the invincible level of the first realm of a godly king. She existed as an overlord of the land of origin. She was ambitious, not relying on external forces to go farther. In the future, with the help of the primordial bloodline, she could become even stronger. She even hoped to become a new monarch. I support godly King Jiayin. Yes, we cannot break the rules of the ancestor, chimed in three of the godly kings in rapid succession. Monarch Lei Xiao nodded in satisfaction. Godly King Jiayin, under his command, was the one he valued the most, having become a godly king in the first realm without relying on external forces to become invincible. In Thunder ancient country, strength spelled status. Godly King Jiayin was strong enough and absolutely level-headed. She handled matters very properly. Most of the other overlord-level existences were too insane and unrestrained. Jiayin, this matter is entrusted to you, said Monarch Lei Xiao. Yes, Monarch, the woman in the splendid robe responded. Monarch Lei Xiao then stood up and had already vanished and departed. The woman in the splendid robe disappeared into thin air as well. Humph, the burly godly king with bloodshot eyes was full of anger, as he swept his gaze over where the woman in the splendid robe had vanished, cultivating the origin Tao of the infinite, always knowing to hide and hide. He disliked godly King Jiayin very much. He had even attempted to attack her, but he could never touch her. Flame Wind ancient country, outskirts of Chu capital city. A graceful figure of a woman in luxurious robes materialized out of thin air, smiling towards the direction of Chu capital city. Huang Feng is imprisoned here. She could pinpoint the location of the city lord of Desert Wind City using the origin Tao of causality. Such an impressive Chu capital city, truly worthy of being the powerful secret treasure crafted by primogenitor Yang Feng. Gazing at the city before her, she could sense the endless might contained within its walls. Here, Emperor Chu was invincible. Whoosh! With one step, she arrived at the city gate, entering openly and righteously, and with another step, she was outside the main gate of Luo Feng's cave dwelling, knocking gently. As she knocked, Luo Feng inside the cave dwelling suddenly became aware, at which moment the servant had already opened the door. Godly King Jiayin. At a glance, Luo Feng saw the figure at the main gate through the myriad buildings and identified the identity of the visitor. Great Saint Luo he, Godly King Jiayin also looked at Luo Feng and nodded with a smile. Luo Feng also became serious. Godly King Jiayin was widely known throughout the land of origin, an unrivaled entity in the first realm of Godly King, which was extremely rare in the land of origin, even more so than ancient entities at the second realm of Godly King. In the entire land of origin, the unrivaled at the first realm of the Godly King, openly or secretly in total, according to the information given by Master Emperor Chu, should be less than 20. And most of those unrivaled at the first realm of Godly King practiced the primordial bloodline. Those unrivaled at the first realm of godly king, who do not rely on the primordial bloodline. There are probably only about 5 overall in the land of origin, and godly King Jiuyin is one of them. This shows how special she is. Even the lofty monarchs of Thunder ancient country value her highly. No matter which monarch was in power, they would invite her for assistance. It is said that godly King Jiuyin, with the origin Tao of the infinite as her foundation, cultivated to the ultimate in the first realm of godly king. After that, she also cultivated the origin Tao of causality. The combination of the two made her an unrivaled entity in the first realm of godly king. Infinite and causality combined, godly King Jiuyin can foresee any danger in advance. Luo Feng was well aware that in terms of avoiding danger and saving one's own life, godly King Jiuyin was above him and even above the ancestral god of the snow realm. This was truly an overlord-level existence in the land of origin. In the cave mansion, at the Welcome Pavilion, Luo Feng personally entertained godly King Jiuyin. What could bring godly King Jiuyin to visit someone in the primal chaos realm like me? Luo Feng poured wine for godly King Jiuyin. Recently, at the border of the two ancient countries, 15 rare natural treasures have emerged, all of which were snatched by you, great Saint Luo He, godly King Jiuyin said with a smile, looking at Luo Feng. Great Saint Luo He, you haven't missed a single one. May I ask, do you intend to monopolize all the natural treasures along the border line? As for those continuously productive mines, one could take a bit and send it back. But for those natural treasures that mature periodically, Luo Feng precisely timed it to monopolize them all. Is that not allowed? Luo Feng looked at her. The conflicts along the border between the two countries have lasted for endless eras. Of course, it's allowed, godly King Jiuyin nodded. The border conflicts naturally have winners and losers. Now that great Saint Luo his strength far surpasses other transcendent beings in the primal chaos realm, you naturally have the right to monopolize, and we in Thunder ancient country can afford to lose. Luo Feng listened closely. But as you know, many godly kings of Thunder ancient country have bad tempers. Godly King Jiuyin looked at Luo Feng, and there are a few who could become barely controlled monarch-level existences. If you, great Saint Luo He, keep harvesting all the natural treasures, causing one of those half-uncontrolled monarchs to rage, godly King Jiuyin watched Luo Feng, even if you are within Chu capital city, a half-uncontrolled monarch could obliterate all your avatars in the land of origin. If you're lucky, you'll have just enough time to be reborn. Luo Feng said, godly King Jiuyin, I have one avatar living within the palace of Emperor Chu. Emperor Chu arranged for Luo Feng to do this as a precaution. Palace of Emperor Chu. Godly King Jiuyin frowned slightly. As a bustling city, Chu capital city didn't prohibit entry or exit, with countless citizens thriving within. Teleporting into Chu capital city was unrestricted, and monarch-level beings could instantaneously obliterate Luo Feng's avatar. But the palace of Emperor Chu, if not permitted, was forbidden to enter. Without access to the palace, naturally, Luo Feng could not be encountered. Emperor Chu allowing you to reside within the palace of Emperor Chu, he truly values you highly. Godly King Jiuyin realized she couldn't pose a threat, immediately saying, Thunder ancient country hopes that you, Luo He, will forever give up competing for the border treasures. Brother Luo He, name your terms. Luo Feng looked at her with a smile. I want to enter the treasure trove left by Yuan. Godly King Jiuyin's expression changed slightly, the treasure trove left by Yuan. Yes, any treasury will do. I'm not picky, Luo Feng said. Godly King Jiuyin looked at Luo Feng, choose another condition. The resources left by Yuan will not be released by the imperial clan of Thunder ancient country. That's the condition, Luo Feng said, if you don't agree, then forget it. I'll continue to compete for the border's natural treasures. 100 eras, 1,000 eras. I have time. Godly King Jiuyin shook her head lightly, forget it. I'll go back and consult the monarch. It's not up to me to decide. Even for the two ancient countries, the resources left by Yuan were the most core. Those brought back by the ancestors were secondary. Even the alien races that traversed the far primordial space to reach the land of origin did so in pursuit of the resources left by Yuan. After speaking, godly King Jiaoyin stood up and disappeared without a trace. According to what Master said, my chances of success should be quite high. Luo Feng waited patiently, as a non-imperial clan powerhouse aspiring to enter the treasure places left by Yuan. According to his master's insights, this was the only way. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Mount Lei Taing. What? The monarch Lei Xiao, bathing in thunder, was somewhat surprised. He wants to enter the treasure place left by Yuan. Yes, that's his only condition. He would accept any treasure place, godly King Jiaoyin stated. If we do not agree, he will continue to compete for the border's natural treasures. Lei Xiao considered it carefully. While spots to enter the treasure place were precious, they still had their value. The natural treasures nurtured along the border, while ordinary individually, amassed altogether and accumulating over time, their value was truly terrifying. In 1,000 eras, the natural treasures he contends for will be worth at least 500 million merit points. If he stays at the primal chaos realm for several thousand more eras, our losses will be immense, godly King Jiaoyin stated, and having such a large quantity monopolized, could even cause a shortage of many mid to low-end resources. Monarch Lei Xiao understood the meaning of his subordinate. All right, agree to his request, and give him one entry to the least valued treasure site, Monarch Lei Xiao spoke up. The treasure site known as Infinite Space, one entry, the exchange price for a guest godly king is 50 million merit points. This is the least valued one, said godly King Jiaoyin. The two major ancient countries would also release some peripheral resources for the guest godly kings to exchange. But the exchange price remained extremely high. Let's go with this entry, Monarch Lei Xiao thought, and took out a silver token from the royal treasure vault, which floated towards godly King Jiaoyin. Godly King Jiaoyin immediately complied. In Chu capital, Luo Feng's cave dwelling. The monarch has agreed. Godly King Jiaoyin looked at Luo Feng, in exchange for an entry to a treasure site left by Yuan, for the promise of great Saint Luo he to forever give up the competition for rare resources along the border of the two countries. Once a promise is made, given the value of this trade, it becomes a significant cause and effect. Godly King Jiaoyin looked at Luo Feng. If you break the promise, even if you reach the invincible first realm of Godly King, through cause and effect backlash, all your avatars can be obliterated in an instant. I understand, Luo Feng nodded in realization. Under normal circumstances, an invincible first realm godly king, with an extremely strong ability to preserve life, could not be claimed by emperors or monarchs to be instantly obliterated. But if one sought death by first creating a significant cause and effect and then actively breaking it, the monarch only needed to use cause and effect backlash, and with a timely strike, could annihilate all avatars. Since he had promised, Luo Feng naturally would not compete for the treasures. If he really needed some of the rare resources along the border, he would prefer to purchase them outright. This is the entry token to Infinite Space, one of the treasure sites left by Yuan. Godly King Jiaoyin placed a silver token on the table. Luo Feng looked at the silver token, full of anticipation. This was the core opportunity of the land of origin. Aside from the Lai Yuan technique, he had acquired another chance today. Buzz. As soon as Luo Feng touched the silver token with his hand, a large amount of information instantly flooded into his memory. So this is how it is. Luo Feng had some basic understanding of the opportunity. The trade is complete. Godly King Jiaoyin smiled. Great Saint Luo He, I've heard that you have imprisoned the true body of the Desert Wind City Lord of our Thunder ancient country. Yes, Luo Feng nodded. The redemption price of merely 300 billion cosmic sand, valued at 1 million merit points, was not yet gathered by Desert Wind City Lord. Could you release him? Godly King Jiayin asked. He still owes me 220 billion cosmic sand, Luo Feng said. I'll pay, declared Godly King Jiayin. Then, of course, I can, Luo Feng smiled. Soon, the Desert Wind City Lord was released. Godly King Jiayin, the Desert Wind City Lord, upon seeing Godly King Jiayin, was extremely respectful and grateful. Thank you, Godly King Jiayin, for saving me. I've paid 220 billion cosmic sand to save you. From now on you shall serve me, and once the debt is repaid, you will regain your freedom. Is that acceptable? Godly King Jiayin looked at the Desert Wind City Lord. Yes, the Desert Wind City Lord did not hesitate. All this time, he had been trying to gather the cosmic sand for ransom. The godly kings of the Thunder Ancient Country each took advantage to exploit him heavily, and he had not agreed to them. Finally, there was Godly King Jiayin willing to help him. Let's go. Godly King Jiayin immediately left with the Desert Wind City Lord. As they were leaving, the Desert Wind City Lord couldn't help but glance at Luo Feng. Luo Feng also smiled slightly. Even with the tyrannical temperament of the Desert Wind City Lord, there was a tremor in his heart, and all he wanted was to be far away from Luo He. After Luo Feng obtained the silver token of the treasure site Infinite Space left by Yuan, he was not in a hurry to enter it. Instead, he went to consult with his master first. Master, the Thunder Ancient Country has agreed. They've given the entry token for Infinite Space. Luo Feng presented the token. Infinite Space. Emperor Chu looked at the silver token and nodded softly. I had guessed long ago that the quota given by the Thunder Ancient Country would definitely be of lower value, but this is too low. It's of low value? Luo Feng inquired. The treasure sites left by Yuan, some can drive godly kings mad. This one is rather ordinary, Emperor Chu explained. I'll send you all the information that the Flame Wind Ancient Country has on this particular treasure site. Luo Feng soon received the complete information on the treasure site, which was far more detailed than the information that came with the token. I feel it's pretty good. After understanding the information, Luo Feng thought that this treasure site, Infinite Space, was already quite amazing. Of course, it could also be because he hadn't seen any other treasure sites. No matter what, explore carefully, Emperor Chu advised. This treasure site might have some undiscovered secrets. Any treasure site left by Yuan should not be underestimated. Yes, Master, Luo Feng immediately replied. That night, Luo Feng sat in the quiet room within Luo Feng's cave dwelling, the Star Tower, holding the silver token. According to the information, should one's consciousness be guided by the silver token to enter the treasure site Infinite Space. Luo Feng's avatar sat cross-legged, activating the silver token in his hand. Buzz. Immediately a stream of consciousness, led by the token, set off towards the treasure site Infinite Space. And this silver token also disappeared without a trace. Each token could only be used once and would disappear after use. Then it would silently and randomly reappear somewhere in the land of origin. Luo Feng felt his consciousness being drawn to a distant land. Boom tilde tilde tilde. Consciousness roared as an invisible force gathered to form a strong physical body. Luo Feng opened his eyes and looked around. He was in a vast expanse of mountains and forests. This body. Luo Feng felt his body, looking the same as he did in the land of origin, with the same aura. This body is much weaker than my Black River form. It should be a normal godly king level body. Luo Feng wasn't surprised. Before coming here, his master, Emperor Chu, had provided him with all the details about the exploration treasure ground Infinite Space of the Flame Wind Ancient Country. The information was also clearly recorded. Everyone who comes to infinite space has the same strength of body. Luo Feng also knew he had been greatly weakened, a normal body without the perfect divine body. He had lost his formless and intangible ability, and he no longer had the ability to create avatars. Luo Feng stood in the mountains and forests, sensing the laws that operated between heaven and earth. The origin Great Tao has also been sealed. Luo Feng thought, according to the exploration of the flame-wind ancient country, this treasure ground has sealed off as many as 19 origin Great Taos, including the 9 origin Great Taos that govern the supreme rules in the land of origin. 19 Taos are sealed, such as the origin Tao of Thunderbolt, the origin Tao of Flame and so on. Although not among the supreme rules, the land of origin does have such inheritance records. Even both ancient countries have methods to cultivate the origin Tao of Thunderbolt. These 19 origin Great Taos are the 19 with a history of inheritance on the land of origin. All are sealed. Moved by a thought, Luo Feng tried to pry into the mysteries of the Great Tao of Destruction origin, but there was no response from the world around him. Just like the information described, I cannot stir even a wisp of law fluctuations. Luo Feng was shocked by Yuan's method, a treasure field opened by Yuan himself. If he said he had sealed the 19 origin Great Taos, then they were sealed, a strength unimaginably terrifying. Whoosh! Luo Feng quickly flew up, and when he reached a high place above the forest, he looked far into the distance in all directions. With some reference to the terrain, Luo Feng also understood his approximate location. Everyone who comes to infinite space has the same body, and cannot use any of the origin Great Tao's mysteries. Luo Feng thought, when we first arrived, we could only rely on our physical body and spiritual will to fight. The main ones who enter this treasure ground are godly kings. Very few from the primal chaos realm could enter, generally only transcendents from the imperial clan of the 2 ancient countries, and there were very few of them. For example, there were only 5 in the flame-wind ancient country's imperial clan. How many of them could have come in? So this treasure ground of infinite space is mainly for godly kings. There are quite a few existence of lordships. Luo Feng was very cautious. Even if the 2 ancient countries allowed some slots to be given to guest elders, 1 slot required 50 million merit points, which ordinary guest elder godly kings couldn't afford. Those who could exchange were naturally exceptional. Some second realm of godly king existences, their spiritual will might even be at the ultimate realm of God King. In front of them, Luo Feng still seemed to lack accumulation. Just arrived and can only rely on the physical body and spiritual will. However, as time passes, new paths can be opened up, Luo Feng thought. Aside from the 19 origin Great Taos that are sealed, if a new path that is opened up, it can be used in infinite space. According to the information, infinite space tests 3 things. First, the strength of the spiritual will. Second, opening up new paths. Third, single-handedly killing indigenous creatures in infinite space. Achievements in these 3 areas can all earn reward points, and afterward, those points can be used to exchange for various resources in infinite space, including inheritances, weapon secret treasures, and cultivation aiding treasures. Luo Feng felt that this treasure ground was still quite good. However, to many ancient beings in the land of origin, the hard-earned reward points were ultimately only exchanged for some resources. It was similar to the guest elder system of the 2 ancient countries, accumulating merit points to exchange for resources. The only difference is that the exchange in infinite space has a higher limit. Stronger inheritances, more precious treasures, but the required reward points are also frighteningly high. Earning reward points in infinite space is too difficult. Among the many treasure lands left by Yuan, the allure of infinite space was naturally low. I'm merely a second realm of godly king in terms of spiritual will. Among the competitors in this treasure land, I should be quite average. Luo Feng shook his head slightly. After all, I am just at the primal chaos realm, and it is extremely difficult for my spiritual will to advance further. Although he practiced the Lai Yuan technique and the Great Destruction Heart refining technique, advancement was extremely difficult. Even a bit of negligence could cause the spiritual will to regress instead of progress. Develop a new path. Luo Feng did have an idea. He had long been contemplating developing the great Tao of life and death, but in his plan, he would first solidify his foundation and grasp more of the great Tao of life origin and the great Tao of destruction origin. After that, he planned to try merging them into one, transforming them into the great Tao of life and death. In infinite space, 19 origin great Taos have been sealed, and both the paths of life and destruction have been sealed. I might as well try to completely merge and pave the way for the great Tao of life and death, Luo Feng thought. The third item, single-handedly killing indigenous creatures. Luo Feng also found it troublesome. The places in infinite space where local creatures are abundant must have already been taken over by the major forces. Compared to enhancing spiritual will or developing new paths, single-handedly killing indigenous creatures was actually the easiest. Whoosh! Luo Feng left the mountain forest quickly, flying towards the area occupied by the flame-wind ancient country recorded in the information. As the origin Tao of space was also sealed, Luo Feng could only fly slowly. After flying for a long time, Luo Feng unexpectedly came into contact with a vast and lurking spiritual will. This spiritual will had an incredibly wide range of influence, and when it was hidden and restrained, Luo Feng didn't notice it at all. Upon contact, the vast will swept over Luo Feng. Using the Lai Yuan technique to protect his inward spirit, Luo Feng resisted this vast will, which was clearly much stronger than his own. The will of someone at the ultimate realm of God King. Luo Feng made a guess, feeling that the other party was definitely stronger than himself, but not to the point of complete suppression. Is it Luo He from the flame-wind ancient country? The vast will asked as it enveloped Luo Feng. Luo Feng's ordinary physical body couldn't disguise its aura. His aura was completely unobscured, naturally allowing him to be instantly recognized. Who are you? Luo Feng didn't know the identity of the other party. I am the god of fire from the Two Realms Palace, the vast will said. This area is also the territory of our Two Realms Palace, so leave quickly. Luo Feng didn't say much and immediately flew away quickly. This is the territory of the Thunder Ancient Country, leave quickly. This is the domain of Wanfa Tower, depart swiftly. Although Luo Feng had obtained information from his master, the territories within infinite space often changed. A single ancient existence could dominate a vast area. On Luo Feng's journey, he encountered 6 areas occupied solely by the Two Realms Palace, each of which had the presence of a spiritual will at the ultimate realm of God King. These were territories occupied by powerful forces, or exclusively claimed by some formidable ancient existences. Luo Feng flew cautiously. We have arrived. Luo Feng reached a territory documented in the intelligence, which was the closest one owned by the flame-wind ancient country. A vast will enveloped him. Luo Feng's expression changed. The will carried an unfathomably gruesome aura that merely brushed past Luo Feng, but made his spiritual will tremble. During the touch, Luo Feng even thought of the catastrophe beast. Far surpassing me, I've encountered quite a few ancient existences spiritual will since coming to this infinite space treasure land, some of which attained the will of the ultimate realm of God King. But this is the first will surpassing the level of the ultimate realm of God King. Luo Feng was certain. This crushing strength gave Luo Feng the sense that without the Lai Yuan technique in operation defending him, his spiritual will in infinite space would have been directly obliterated. Luo He, the will noticed Luo Feng. To be a being from the primal chaos realm, and yet make it here. You must have cultivated the calamity beast diagram. Your spiritual will contains quite a bit of the catastrophe beast's essence. Luo Feng replied with due respect, yes. I have cultivated the calamity beast diagram, and it has been a great help to me. I am Emperor Ming, the creator of the calamity beast diagram, the will revealed. Luo Feng was inwardly shocked. Emperor Ming, one of the 13 emperors of the flame-wind ancient country. Emperor Ming also cultivated the primordial bloodline. Generally speaking, he and Luo Feng's master, Emperor Chu, were not from the same faction. The tale of Emperor Ming's rise was a legend in the imperial clan of the flame-wind ancient country. He was an exile in a minor cosmos, born within it, his origins the humblest of all. Yet, he forged ahead, eventually leaving the minor cosmos, becoming a noble of the imperial clan, ascending to godly king, and finally, to emperor. Among the 13 emperors, he had the most humble beginnings, but that garnered the admiration of countless members of the imperial clan. Such a terrifying will. Luo Feng sensed the unfathomable and solemn will of Emperor Ming. Even though he also cultivated the primordial bloodline, Emperor Ming's spiritual will was extremely calm, like an immeasurable sea without a ripple. You are the disciple of Emperor Chu. I can carve out a small piece of territory for you within the land occupied by the flame-wind ancient country. There, you will find 3 native creatures, Emperor Ming offered. If you feel it's too little, you can try your luck elsewhere. Thank you, Your Majesty. I am willing to accept, Luo Feng said respectfully. A token with only a single opportunity to enter. During the initial stage of entering the treasure land, it was natural for him to keep a low profile, lie low, become familiar with infinite space, and gradually increase his strength within it. Go then. The terrifying will transmitted a thread of information to Luo Feng, containing the map to that small piece of territory. Thank you, Your Majesty. Luo Feng immediately flew towards the location of that territory. This Luo He. Emperor Ming was quite proud, generally not fond of the other imperial emperors. However, he harbored a sliver of goodwill towards Luo He. Not of the imperial clan, and yet making it here from the primal chaos realm, is no easy feat. Emperor Ming understood the rarity of the opportunity. Being exiled in a minor cosmos within the imperial clan, at the bottom of the hierarchy, was even harder than being an ordinary resident of the land of origin, with innate strengths much weaker. According to the ancient country's investigation, he comes from the primordial cosmos, born perhaps even humbler than myself. Those born in humility treasure each opportunity all the more, Emperor Ming thought. Even as an emperor, he still valued this treasure land greatly. While some elites of the imperial clan were picky and chose better treasure lands, Emperor Ming, as one of the pinnacle beings of the land of origin, remained here with a shred of consciousness, cultivating in silence. He was determined to fully exploit every opportunity. This was also one of the reasons why he could ascend to emperor. A man in green robes sitting cross-legged on the grass suddenly opened his eyes, and he saw the silhouette of a man in black clothes landing in the distance. Luo He. The man in green recognized the other at a glance. Luo Feng also looked over and smiled, nodding, godly King Qian Mu. This man in green was none other than the godly King Qian Mu from the 13 veins of the imperial clan of the flame-wind ancient country, from the Emperor Ju Feng lineage. I didn't expect to see great Saint Luo He here, said godly King Qian Mu as he stepped forward to greet Luo Feng warmly. As a godly king of the imperial clan of the flame-wind ancient country, he naturally had a sense of pride. But facing great Saint Luo He, godly King Qian Mu was very humble and friendly. After all, everyone knew that in the not-too-distant future, great Saint Luo He could very well be an overlord-level existence in the land of origin. He, godly King Qian Mu, was still only at the first realm of godly king. In terms of strength, he was merely on par with Luo He at the moment. Bear in mind, Luo He was a transcendence of primal chaos realm. How could godly King Tien Mu feel any pride? His Majesty is kind enough to let me hunt here, Luo Feng said. Our flame-wind ancient country has many territories in the infinite space, but the region governed by His Majesty is the safest, godly King Tien Mu said. For His Majesty to allocate a piece of territory to you, it shows how much he values you. Godly King Tien Mu said this outwardly, but was quite surprised inwardly. Everyone knew that Emperor Ming and Emperor Chu did not have a good relationship. Yet, he was willing to help Luo He, which was indeed very rare. By the way, full of curiosity, godly King Tien Mu asked, Great Saint Luo He, how did you get the opportunity to come here? Even for the transcendence of primal chaos realm from our imperial clan, there is only one chance to enter this sacred place. To get more chances, one needs to exchange them for merit points. To get more chances, one must exchange. Luo Feng asked, how many merit points can it be exchanged for? For internal exchanges within the imperial clan, it's 1/10 of the guest elder's quota. Godly King Tien Mu didn't hide the fact since it had long been no secret over the ages. For guest elder godly kings, an entry quota to infinite space costs 50 million merit points. For the imperial clan, it costs 5 million merit points per entry. Even so, for us at the first realm of godly king, it's not easy to accumulate 5 million merit points. Luo Feng understood. For a godly king who is not from the two great imperial clans, to accumulate 50 million merit points, or to wrest resources from the two great ancient countries, they are surely not ordinary godly kings. The opportunity one got to come in was from the Thunder ancient country. Luo Feng did not hide it. Oh? Godly King Tien Mu was surprised. It took quite a bit of effort. Luo Feng did not elaborate. Watching Luo Feng, godly King Tien Mu laughed with admiration. Apart from the two great imperial clans, being able to enter the treasure lands left by the ancestor at the primal chaos realm stage is a rarity in the entire history of the land of origin. I can guess that great Saint Luo He seized this opportunity through sheer strength. Compared to great Saint Luo He, we who have been nurtured by our family's resources seem mediocre, said godly King Tien Mu, shaking his head. Who dares call a godly king mediocre? I'm still stuck at a bottleneck, Luo Feng said. Ha ha, it's not a bottleneck for you, it won't be long before you become a godly king, godly King Tien Mu said. In his light-hearted talk, he treated Luo Feng as an equal, without the usual sense of condescension that godly kings had towards those at the primal chaos realm. The two chatted leisurely for a while before parting. Luo Feng was quite moved. Internally within the imperial clan, 5 million merit points for an exchange, with some efforts by the godly kings, they could accumulate that amount. But for guest elder godly kings, 50 million merit points, it was much more daunting to accumulate. Especially some ancient existences with sufficient strength, who naturally formed alliances, and began to vie and compete for resources based on strength. The two supreme ancestors had never interfered in these conflicts, perhaps because they were disdainful, or perhaps because those resources were left by the ancestor. The hunting ground Emperor Ming gave me has 3 native creatures. Luo Feng flew towards the nearest native creature based on the intelligence. After flying for more than 10 breaths, Luo Feng saw the creature. Luo Feng observed the native creature. This native creature existed between the real and the illusory, its 8 enormous tentacles permeating the void. In the center of its vast body was an enormous head, with a blood-red solitary eye on it watching Luo Feng intently. Merely observing, there was an invisible spiritual power infiltrating to influence. Luo Feng, with his own spirit at the second realm of godly king and the Lai Yuan technique to guard him, naturally treated it as if it were just a breeze. According to intelligence, every single native creature in infinite space is a creature of the spirit, with spirit as their core and their physical bodies secondary. Luo Feng thought. Their activity range is very limited. This huge tentacled creature also observed Luo Feng, pondering, as my will descends upon this mystical land, this alien strongman will be my 9th ordeal. I must survive 1,000 tribulations to transform. 1,000 trials, without success, there can only be death. This tentacled creature was equally patient. Boom. Luo Feng made his move, and although 19 origin Great Tao in the infinite space was sealed, the most basic law of primal chaos could still be executed. The tentacled creature also lashed out with its enormous tentacles, each with a terrifying might, each having godly king level strength, not the least bit inferior to Luo Feng's physical body. However, in terms of skill, this tentacled creature was far from the law of primal chaos, appearing extremely crude. Bang! Like an afterimage, Luo Feng instantly dodged the tentacle strikes, his foot stabbing like a knife point into the creature's enormous head, blowing a bloody cavity into it. Woo! A low roar sounded, and an even more chaotic spiritual power suddenly erupted, assaulting Luo Feng's spiritual will. This alien strongman, his will is too terrifying. I can't infiltrate a trace. The tentacled creature was somewhat shocked as it had previously gone through tribulations and encountered other godly kings in the infinite space. The strongest one was merely a godly king with spirit at the second realm, who did not possess the law of Lai Yuan technique, and it was still able to contaminate and infiltrate a little. Bang! 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 The body of the tentacled creature exploded time and time again. It was indeed far inferior to Luo Feng in close combat. As its injuries became more severe. Tear. Luo Feng also ripped apart an already damaged giant tentacle. Luo Feng, with his overwhelming advantage in close combat, took about the time of a tea ceremony to utterly tear the tentacle creature to shreds, even destroying it bit by bit. However, the immense will of the tentacle creature still loomed there. Buzz. Suddenly, under the manipulation of the ethereal will, invisible forces converged, and in just a few breaths, the forces coalesced into the form of the tentacle creature again. It's recovered. Luo Feng watched this scene, not at all surprised. According to the information, it is impossible to kill the native creatures of infinite space through normal physical combat. Luo Feng thought, even if I destroy its body time after time, it would take hundreds, or even thousands of annihilations before it sustains any injury, and it will vanish for a long time, and after a long while, it will recover and return. Forcing it to disappear will earn me 1 reward point. Because they can't be killed, Emperor Ming allocated only 3 native creatures to Luo Feng's territory. These 3 native creatures, they are enough for Luo Feng to keep killing endlessly. The only way to kill them completely is to annihilate their will. It will then die completely and never recover, Luo Feng thought. According to the information, even the weakest native creature requires the will of the ultimate realm of godly king to possibly annihilate it completely. I have only the second realm of godly king's spiritual will, in combination with the Lai Yuan technique. I wonder if I can wipe it out. Luo Feng looked at the tentacle creature in front of him. The tentacle creature also observed Luo Feng. This is my calamity, the 9th one. The tentacle creature, with its long life, naturally had a lot of patience. Suddenly, everything in front of the tentacle creature disappeared. It couldn't see anything else, only a majestic spinning star. The colossal star, rolling forward, directly crushed and impacted the chaotic and frantic spiritual power of the tentacle creature. Splat tilde tilde tilde. The tentacle creature's chaotic and frantic spiritual power was crushed by nearly 80% in an instant. Not good. The tentacle creature also saw Luo Feng, and at this moment, within its giant blood-red eye was shock and anger. It voluntarily disintegrated its body in an instant, and its spiritual conscience completely departed. A distant world. This world, with thousands of countries vying for control, countless creatures struggling to survive, and cultivators among them. The true master of this world are some terrifying beings, and these terrifying beings are known as demons. Demons, immortal and imperishable, feed on the 7 emotions and 6 desires of living beings. Oh, in the depths of the ocean of this world, there was an immensely huge tentacle creature, occupying about a third of the entire ocean, which was also the forbidden sea of this world. This tentacle creature was also the origin of the world's demonic overlords. The most terrifying and dreadful being, it was also the heavenly way of this world. The world's numerous cultivators, they derived their cultivation paths from this being. My 9th calamity turned out to be so terrifying. He actually obliterated nearly 80% of my spiritual power in one strike. The single eye of the tentacle creature also contained a trace of fear. The origin of the demonic overlords of this world, an existence like the heavenly way, actually feeling fear. If the cultivators of this world knew this, they would likely find it unbelievable. However, what he obliterated were the most chaotic and disordered of my thoughts. The tentacle creature also realized this. What remains are even more pure and concentrated. I feed on the 7 emotions and 6 desires of innumerable living beings of this world, which also has made me more chaotic. The ordeal of 1,000 tribulations is both a calamity and a tempering. Once I get through it, I can completely transform. Having been hit once, the tentacle creature also saw the benefits, but it still needed to recuperate. When the time comes, I must descend again, and this calamity is much more difficult and terrible than the previous ones. In the process of undergoing 1,000 tribulations, one can rest temporarily, but cannot shrink back. One must endure each tribulation in turn. After the tentacle creature voluntarily disappeared, it did not show up again. Normally, physical combat would take hundreds to thousands of times to force it to vanish. Just one hit from the Lai Yuan technique, and the tentacle creature took off. It's a pity. I couldn't kill it completely. Luo Feng shook his head slightly. My spiritual will is still not strong enough. Even the will of the ultimate realm of Godly King, using some powerful secret techniques of willpower, is only hopeful of annihilating it completely. If my spiritual will were a few percentage points stronger, perhaps I could have destroyed it in one strike. These chaotic thoughts. Luo Feng frowned slightly as he realized that while destroying nearly 80% of the creature's spiritual power, a large number of chaotic thoughts contaminated his own spiritual will, with the various emotions and desires of countless creatures tainting his own being. This was also the aftermath of using spiritual will against such native creatures. Suddenly, boom tilde tilde. Invisible laws descended and enveloped Luo Feng. Trialist, Luo he from land of origin. For repelling a spiritual being once, reward points. 1. All resources in the treasure trove can be exchanged with reward points. Fighting with the basic law of primal chaos, new Dao evaluation, low. Reward points, 0. You have not carved out any new Dao, more effort is needed. Your body of primal chaos realm reaching the will of the 2nd realm of Godly King, spiritual will evaluation, medium. Reward points, 100. Your spiritual will is barely passable, improvement is needed. Total reward points, 101. This video will end here.